Uh, my story is interesting in that I went in for my annual routine checkup. And a good friend of mine was my gynecologist, and he called me. I was working at a local newspaper and told me that he needed me to come into the office. And I didn't think anything about it. We were friends. We belonged to the same church. So we were on different committees. And I went out to the office, and I went in his office, and when I walked in, he had his back turned to me. And when he turned around, he had tears coming out his eyes, and I went into a panic. And I said, "What's wrong? Is Janice something wrong with Janice? His wife is a pediatrician." And he looked at me and he said, "No." He said, "Your pap smear results came back." And he said, "You have cancer." And I looked at him and I said, "I don't smoke." And he said, "No, not that kind of cancer. You have cervical cancer." And it's been 23 years, and to this day, I still don't remember that drive back to my office.
You know, I was a college student when I had, going through some abnormal pap tests, and I was, it was low grade cervical dysplasia. My doctor in Columbia, basically it was like, "There's nothing for you to worry about. It'll probably go away on its own." And I just really never thought anything else about HPV or what it was. Until, just about a couple years ago, it jumped from low to high grade cervical dysplasia. So I had a LEAP procedure, and they were like, 5%, people might have to have a second surgery. And I just really didn't think anything else of it. And then, a year ago, a little over a year ago, I had to have a cone biopsy, and I didn't understand. For me, I went and had my pap test done every year. I didn't really understand, okay, if this is happening to me and I go and follow up as I'm supposed to with, my doctor, I wonder about all the, women in the world and my friends that might not be going every year.
I'm going to try to make it brief because when I think about it, sometimes I get kind of choked up. But at the time, I was 30 years old, and I was thinking about, I was ready to have a child. And I remember going to church on a Sunday. And the children's choir was singing that Sunday, and it was the day after I had got my diagnosis. And they said to me that I was going to have a complete and total hysterectomy. And on that particular Sunday, I was to be admitted, and I remember being really scared, and I didn't want to go. And so I stayed at church a little longer. I went to the hospital, and I laid there, and I remember thinking to myself, I said, "I have no children." And that was the most devastating thing for me at that point. And the fact that I was going to feel like, I felt like I wasn't going to be a woman that was being taken away from me, and I was angry about that. And I cried the whole time I was there the first night and went through the process.
In 2000, I was diagnosed with severe cervical dysplasia. And at the time, I was a stay-at-home mom. I had just had a baby. She was, I think, 9 months old, and I remember similar that when the doctor called me and said, and she only said pre-cancer, don't remember anything after that. I come from a large family. I have four sisters, sorry. And when this happened, I was like in shock. Like, if this could happen to me, this could happen to anybody. So I immediately alerted my sisters that, you need to go get your PAPs done. I didn't know if they were going annually or not. So, that was, everybody had to go, just do it. Mm-hmm. So fast forward to 2007, my younger sister, Carrie Ann, was 36. In August, she had been complaining about, heavy periods and, just not feeling well. She was run down, working, just didn't go to the doctor very often. Ends up one night, in the middle of the night, she started hemorrhaging. So she went to the she called the ambulance, went to the hospital, and they diagnosed her with stage 4 cervical cancer. She was diagnosed in August of 2007, and she had one chemo treatment, but her kidneys failed, couldn't handle it. She had some radiation treatments to shrink the tumor down. 3.5 months later, she died. She never went to the doctor. She never had her PAPs. And if she had, this would have never happened.
I teach in a high school. I teach 9th graders. And my daughter taught 3rd graders. And I'm talking to teachers who we're finding kids experimenting with sex under the bleachers and all this stuff. Right. And here we have a vaccine that can eradicate it that nobody knows about.
Mm-hmm. I just think it's so interesting that there's such a clamor out there for curing cancer, and this is one of the only things that we know that can really effectively prevent this deadly disease.
Right.
And I'm thinking about some of the things that I deal with every single day for the rest of my life. Yes. My medical care is above, in 23 years, has hit above the $2 million mark just for me. Period. How many people could be vaccinated with just my care? Above 2 million. Yes.